All states have their speech stereotypes. Typical characters may include California Valley Girls to Southern Belles. What about the ill-fated Florida man? What does he sound like? 2 undergraduate students and a faculty researcher at the University of North Florida are finding out. In a project exploring Floridian regional language varieties and their connections to identity, research participants often mentioned a familiar character in our state, Florida man. No, not that Florida man. That Florida man.
Florida man.
Florida man.
Florida man.
Florida man.
In an ongoing project, so far 12 participants have explained their experiences and perceptions of language connected to a Floridian identity. Between the ages of 20 and 40, all participants were either born and raised in Florida or had moved to Florida and lived there for at least a year. Florida man speaks with what some participants called a rural accent, like a slow southern drawl. Some referred to him as a white, bombastic man who isn't very wealthy and frequently fights alligators or ventures out in hurricanes. But is Florida man more of a myth? Or at the very least, do residents feel like Florida man accurately represents Floridians? As we are getting more data, participant responses so far reference contradictions or divides in a state identity, like North versus South, rural versus urban, even English versus Spanish. Commonly heard in Florida is the phrase, the more north you go, the further south you get.
The farther north you go, the more southern it gets.
The more north you are in Florida, the more southern you actually are.
What does this mean?
Some participants think it could be due to migration. Marie and Cameron mentioned snowbirds, who are northerners tired of the snow who move south, especially for the winters. They also mentioned people who move to retire in Florida. Marie, Carl, and John also referenced military personnel deployed to one of Florida's many military bases. Florida is the most southern state geographically, but Florida doesn't live up to other regionally expected speech patterns found in the American South. So, the American South heartland is actually north of Florida? In the many urban areas of Florida, there's all kinds of people, of all races, ethnicities, religions, political leanings, and more. This diversity seems to permeate ideas of a neutral or distinctly non-Southern accent. South Florida is closely associated with Spanish and Spanish speakers.
So, Florida isn't only Disney, southern drawls, or fighting alligators. In fact, some specific words are believed to be born in Florida.
Pub sub. Jit. Green.
This project is still in its beginning phases, but where does that leave us?
Well, we need to do more research. Even with the data we have, our participants agree that the media and circulating ideologies about Florida don't account for the diversity that Floridians see very clearly themselves. Language is always changing, but diversity, linguistic or otherwise, is something Floridians see when looking in the mirror, even if they don't think others see it. By researching language through the lens of Floridian identities, we invite you to explore language ideologies from your own state. With more studies like this, we can better understand our surroundings, how we are perceived, and how we perceive ourselves.
No, those are good.